Good evening. If we could all be seated, please, we'd like to begin. Good evening and welcome to Tuesday, April 23rd, 2024, meeting of the Newburgh School Board. We welcome you here. There's an awful lot of people here tonight in the auditorium. I say it every time. It's vitally important the community participates in this process. That's how our government was founded, and that's how we should continue. So I don't sit up here tonight thinking everybody's going to come to the stage and say wonderful things. Maybe a lot of people probably won't, but you're welcomed here, and this is your forum, so thank you. With that, Mr. Howard will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Point of order. Roll call, Mr. Bergarelli.
Okay.
Here. Mr. Duray. Mr.
Here.
Grant. Mr. Harvey.
Here.
Mr. Howard.
Here.
Mr. Levenstein.
Here.
Ms. Mineo.
Here.
Ms. Politi.
Here.
Mr. Walker.
And now, Mr. Howard will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We can have a moment of silent meditation on self-reflection. Thank you.
Good evening. April is Autism Awareness Month. Tonight, we will have Ms. Maureen Ryan share some information with us.
you'll see that there is a pictorial representation of the Pledge of Allegiance. Have you ever heard a kindergartner or a first grader say the pledge? They often use words that are not in the pledge because the pledge is kind of confusing. So by using a pictorial representation like what's in there, that allows them to see what the words are and hopefully understand a little bit clearer what the words are and be able to say it clearly. They still may not understand it, but at least they'll be using the correct words and saying it the right way. The other thing that's in your folder is a poem. And the poem is entitled, if I can find mine, When I See, I Understand. When I hear, I forget, in one ear and out the next, but it makes more sense to me when there's something I can see. With my eyes, show me now, you'll be helping me learn how to make a choice or shake a hand. When I see, I understand. That's so important for the students. Wherever we can demonstrate and show and help them understand, the better it's going to be that they're going to master that task. The other thing that's in your folder is an article called The Anthropologist on Mars. And it has kind of it has this on the front of it. There's a little note. This is on the other side. This is an article. When you see it, please don't think that I'm recycling things and just giving you something that's very old. It is an article that was written back in the 90s by Oliver Sacks. And the reason I gave it to you is it was probably one of the most impactful articles I've ever read. He interviewed 7 different people with different disabilities. He was a neurologist. And when he interviewed Temple Grandin, this is the article that he wrote from that. And it's actually Temple Grandin, who is a woman with autism, very high functioning, very bright, but she tells about her experience of growing up autistic, and she was able to give a lot of insights as to what it was like and how things affected her in her life. What was most important, she talks about, I've seen Temple a number of times, and she says she appreciated the fact that people got in her face and didn't allow her to stay in her own little world. They made her become part of the rest of the world and to see what was out there. And that's how she developed language, that's how she developed her love for animals, and she's probably one of the most renowned animal experts in the area of the slaughterhouses for animals. She does she's worked on doing humane things for animals. She's an amazing lady, but she's able to share all of her experiences with us. So I ask that you just take a little bit of time. It is lengthy, and I apologize for that, but I think it will give you some really good insight, and I ask that when you're done with it, that you pass it on to someone else, and ask them to pass it on to someone else. And it's like the commercial, like one person, and then 2 people, and then 4 people, and if we can keep that going, I think our ability to go from awareness to acceptance will increase many, many times. With all of the information that I've kind of shared with you tonight, I wanted kind of a unique way to give you that without just giving you a straight handout with facts on it. So you do have something in your folder that says just the facts, and all of the information that I've talked about is basically in that little newsletter. So I hope you find that interesting, and that gives you some of those things to be able to think about later. As I get ready to close my presentation, I'd like to draw your attention to the infinity symbol. You have a little pouch on the table in front of you that has 2 pins with the same symbol. And I have extra pins if anybody in the audience would like some. We have some down here. The symbol is the infinity symbol, and that has started to become used with autism more recently. it's kind of being accepted instead of just the puzzle piece. And I think part of it is that autism was very puzzling to everyone. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to handle it. We've now kind of gotten a little bit of a handle on it. There's still some puzzle pieces that are appropriate because there's still things that we don't know and we're still learning. But the infinity symbol allows us to look at the infinite possibilities for students. And I'd like to give Mr. Baer some credit. He's the one that pointed the infinity symbol out to me at a meeting back in, I think it was last fall. One of the things with the infinity symbol is an 8 turned on its side. And the classes at Meadow Hill are 811s. So it kind of took that class ratio and flipped it on its side, but it also shows the infinite possibilities that those students have. And we'd really like to capitalize on all of that and get them going in the right direction. And I just have one other thing before I close, and that's kind of a story that I'd like to share with you. When I was an administrator, I worked at Orange Ulster BOCES, and we used to get students from all around the county. And I got this young lady. She was, I'm not sure, I can't really remember if she was at the end of 5th grade or if she had started 6th grade. And she just could not manage being with her peers anymore. It was just too much. She was having meltdowns, she was having difficulty. And they recommended that she come to our BOCES program. And usually the students who came in who were the most difficult were the ones that I fell in love with. And she happened to be one of the ones that kind of captured my heart. She came in the first day, and I have never heard a young lady scream as much as this young lady could scream. Every little thing that went wrong in her day, she was just screeching about it. Everything was very large for her. If it was too hot, she had to get loud and tell us that it was too hot. If it was too cold, if somebody bumped into her, she would scream. So I used to refer to her as Screamin' Mimi, and I actually used to call her Mimi, and she knew why. I spent time sitting on the floor with her and holding on to her and helping her rock and just calm herself down so that she could go back to doing what she needed to do. She was a very verbal student. She was also very intelligent, but her behavior and her ability to manage herself really got in the way. Over time, she was able to get herself together. She was able to learn coping strategies. We had a very strong social skills program for her that allowed her to understand her emotions and what was happening with her. And we taught her strategies to help de-escalate and calm herself down. She learned to breathe. She learned to use fidgets. She learned to ask to leave the room if she needed to. All kinds of things. For her last 2 years of school, we were able to send her back to her home school district. She was in the high school plays. She kind of scared the director the first year, because again, it was a whole new situation and she kind of had difficulty. But I worked with the director and we were able to get him to understand what he could do for her, and she was successful. I went and watched her in the play, and I have to tell you, I can't even tell you what play they did because I didn't really watch the play, I just watched her to see how successful she was. I was so, so proud of her. She graduated from there. She went on to go to Rockland Community College, and this book was published by her. It's sold on Amazon. She wrote the book, and she illustrated the book. And to me, this is infinity and beyond. Her name is Mary Christine Hennessy, and I just love this young lady. She shows us that with the right programming and the right things, they can go on to do the most amazing things. So, Dr. Manny Campbell, thank you again. I'm going to put this in a basket. I have a basket for you with children's books and with some adult resources and a whole lot of fidgets for anybody in BOE that needs fidgets to keep themselves occupied during some meetings. So I want to say thank you for everyone's attention, and I hope that you've learned something this evening and that you can look at these students in a little bit different lens and know that these are students who are going to be around with us for a long time, and we have a lot of work to do to make sure we program for them appropriately. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Just have a couple of words, followed by Dr. Manning. Good evening again. This evening, the board will be voting on the district budget proposal. I have some thoughts on the budget, which I will get to, but I want to speak a little bit about this job, what we do, some of our teachers. So if you indulge me for a couple of minutes. If I had the time to put a few smart folks into a room for 4 hours with the task of creating the most thankless volunteer position in the community, they'd come back in 2 and tell me we've got it. We will call them school board members. I'd say you're close, go back and try again. In a short amount of time, they would joyfully come back and announce, now we've got it, we'll call it the school board president. And they would be correct. You don't sit here for the thanks. But here's the catch, which few people understand. You're not here for the thanks, but at the very same time, this is one of the most rewarding positions possible to have in the entire community. Personally, I love doing this job. I talk to the other board members regularly. They love doing this job and serving the community. If you are running for election and your prime motivator is disdain for the district and/or the administration, you may win. It could happen. But you will quickly learn that much of your disdain is unfounded when you see how things are. So how can something be both thankless and rewarding? And it's an easy answer. It's people. Teachers, students, volunteers, administrators, and parents. I'll briefly share 4 experiences from just the last 14 days of doing this job. On April 9th at the board meeting, we recognized the regional spelling bee champion, Eli McNair from the South Middle School. Simply meeting him and being able to thank him and his mother, who was in attendance, is an incredibly rewarding experience. I wish him and his family success in Washington, D.C. in May. At the same meeting, during the personnel section, the board approved the superintendent's tenure recommendation for Elizabeth D. Francesco, supervisor of exceptional learners. I don't personally know Ms. Di Francesco, but I will share with you that her smile from the back of the room while being recognized helps make this a very rewarding job. To be able to meet people like her who have such incredible passion for her job is something very special. 4 days later, I attended Honor Flight Mission 32 from Stewart to Washington, D.C. If you've never been to one, go to one. They're incredibly moving. And they're for our veterans. Now, part of the ceremony included about 50 cadets from the Newburgh ROTC, very early in the morning, 6:30 in the morning, proudly lined up in dress uniform to honor our flag and salute our veterans. They were led by Master Sergeant Grumman. Again, incredibly rewarding to be able to thank the Master Sergeant for his work. If you need a positive Facebook experience, and some of us do, go to the ROTC page and you'll see some incredible students doing some wonderful things for our community. Lastly, on April 18th, with an invite from Dr. Manning, I met with a group of students involved with the Puerto Rican Hispanic Leadership Institute, led by faculty member Chastity Yada. Each of the students attending was expected to speak publicly. Each spoke of how important school was to their future. They spoke of their dreams to be doctors and lawyers, and if you met them, you know their dreams will become reality. These are some hardworking kids. In addition, one of the ROTC cadets who had been at Stewart for Honor Flight also made a presentation. At the end of the meeting, he spoke with me of how valuable school is and how valuable the ROTC is to him. Again, meeting students like this one is one of the greatest rewards of this job, and there are many, many more. When I first ran for election, I did not receive the backing of the NTA. For whatever reason, I probably still would not, but would like to share a few words regarding teachers. If I asked every single person in this room to name their favorite teacher, every hand would be raised. That's the impact a good teacher has on a student. Mine was Mrs. Leventer, my 9th grade English teacher. Mrs. Leventer made me believe in myself and always encouraged me. Her wit, an incredible gift of being sarcastic and encouraging in the same sentence, will never be forgotten. I was speaking with a teacher yesterday and told her with all sincerity, I could not do your job for 10 minutes, and I think 10 was an exaggeration. The thought of standing in front of a group of young people and being on it for hours at a time, to me is terrifying. Yet, we are very fortunate in this district to have hundreds of Mrs. or Mr. Leventers in our district. Teachers who show up to classrooms, willing to educate students and make a difference in young lives. I will add that meeting some of our teachers has been an incredibly rewarding part of this job. Taxes and the budget, a little bit more difficult subject, but to put it in context, if you are a parent of a child graduating in 2024, the last time the district made a tax adjustment, your child was in 3rd grade. Think about that for a moment. 3rd grade, getting their adult teeth, all through elementary school, middle school, high school. That's a long time that we've survived in this district without moving the tax needle. No one on the board wants to raise taxes on our community. We live here too. We're not some foreign people. We live here. It's like calling an airstrike on your own position. It's the very last resort. Please consider, is the thought that taxes will never increase while we are all aware of how much every single item we purchase has increased in cost a realistic expectation? I'm not going to answer for you. That's up to you. Please consider when the board approves and the bargaining units ratify contracts with raises, where will the money come from? How would we retain a great staff, and we have a great staff across the board, if we are unable to provide market value salaries? Unlike the state, which finances its debt through borrowing, or the federal government that can literally print money, we are required to have a balanced budget regardless of where the budget process is at Albany. We've worked hard to do that. It's interesting that many people clamor for cuts, but when minor cuts are made, others clamor that those are the wrong cuts. Understandably, there is no point where everyone will be satisfied. In summary, the taxpayers, myself included, have benefited from a 9-year run of kicking the proverbial can down the road. We are now at the dead end. The board and administration have worked to deliver a budget that minimizes cuts and meets the needs of our students and our paid staff for the 24 to 25 school year. That's the truth of the matter, and I appreciate you listening. Thank you. I'll turn it over to Dr. Gare.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ryan, for bringing some awareness regarding autism to our community. Thank you for your dedication. Mr. Duray, thank you so very much. I'm hoping that tonight I might be able to address those here for public comment before that section begins. I am assuming that many of you are here to speak about your love of the arts. I came to that conclusion because I recognize many of your names from our performance programs and have seen many of your talents in one of our many amazing performances throughout the year. I would like to share with you that I also love the arts. Any decision that are being made are certainly not personal, nor to give an advantage to one of our many programs over another. I applaud your advocacy and look forward to hearing the constructive ways in which you present your thoughts tonight. Before we begin, I would like to let you know that after further examination, there will be no layoffs in the music or art departments for the next school year. Thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Duray.
signed up is Miss Linda Barra in the budget. Ma'am, the podium's down on the floor.
I appreciate your comments about the budget and the Saving the Music program and the arts program. We're still here to speak about that. So, good evening. We're the Barra family. My husband and I are both lifelong residents and graduates of Newburgh Free Academy. Our son Glenn is a 2023 graduate currently attending SUNY New Paltz and continuing to pursue music. Adler's a junior at North Campus. When it was time to choose schooling for our boys, we explored alternative schools for them. Ultimately, we chose to stay within the Newburgh schools, despite the commonly heard rhetoric of, oh, Newburgh, that's such a bad district, you better be careful. We understood that Newburgh has a great deal to offer young scholars and wanted our boys to experience the richness of those offerings, specifically within music and arts. As many of you are aware, there are a plethora of benefits when including music and arts in students' curriculum. There is countless research to support those facts. Music provides richer, more vibrant, interpersonal lives. Music is a language. It's well documented that music training boosts IQ, focus, and persistence. It improves cognitive function and academic performance. Students learn better when music is a part of the school curriculum. Music and arts activate varying parts of the brain, which can lead to reduction of depression and anxiety. As a mental health professional with over 20 years of experience in the field, I've witnessed this firsthand with the countless amount of individuals I've worked with. I witnessed this within my own family and friends. That is what brings our family here this evening. We're disappointed about the proposed cuts relating to these programs. Why is it that they are one of the first on the chopping block? These are credit-bearing classes, much like math, English, social studies, science, and not to mention foreign language. When a student is meeting with their guidance counselor to prepare for next year, they most often are automatically rolled into the next level of classes, i.e. Spanish 2 after Spanish 1. Why is this not the case with music? Why is it that a student is not afforded the very same option with music? Oftentimes it is said, sorry, that doesn't work with your schedule. This occurred with both of my boys who have been involved in the music programs since elementary school at Meadow Hill. Music and arts encourage diversity and cooperation, joining those who may not have otherwise come together. As I stated earlier, music is a language. Why is it not more well known that 4 years of music along with some electives can equate to the Regents diploma requirement needed in lieu of a foreign language? Maybe scholars who struggle with foreign language may perform much better in a music and art environment. What a self-esteem booster that may be for them, and continued success. These departments have already suffered significant cuts 10 plus years ago, which have not been recouped. We continue to cut away and leave departments with fewer professional educators to guide and inspire our budding children. It is imperative that we engage children at the elementary school level to develop an interest and love of music and art. Problems with scheduling creates the problem, thereby creating a smaller program. There are fewer options and alternatives offered if it doesn't fit into the academic schedule. And my son Adler will speak to how this has impacted him this year.
For me, music is different from my academic classes. All day, we're handed stuff to learn and absorb, but music gives us the chance not to only receive, but to create as well. And we are truly missing that in the current time. Music and arts give me and many others an outlet in which we can take a break from the continuous stream of information coming in. We continue to learn and develop and create. This has been so important to me as I've been a part of the music program since 3rd grade and have firsthand experienced these clearly beneficial effects. I wasn't able to fit band into my schedule without conflicting with an AP class. Why is this? It's important enough to me that I give up my lunch period daily to go and meet with Mr. Goodside during this period. It just so happens that it is his lesson period. I feel so grateful for this. If it weren't, I would miss out on the continuous growth as a musician and continue to develop camaraderie with my fellow bandmates. Taking away the music teachers would be detrimental to the creativity of students, and they would not be there to help facilitate this creativity and expression within the community.
In quoting Dr. Manning Campbell's words relating to this matter, strategic is how we will offer. We can have more robust music and art offerings. We ask, how will more robust offerings be possible with fewer educators to provide those offerings? How can we strategically offer without penalizing those higher achieving scholars who greatly benefit from music and arts programs? Offering lessons after school time creates further conflict. Some children may not be able to attend during that time, like our boys who were involved in sports. They would have more conflicts within their schedule. These are not really very viable options for everyone. What other schools in the county, I'm almost done, offer these programs?
Excuse me. Time is up. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak is Mr. Darius Hess on the budget.
Jake, 1, 2. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, before I begin, I'd like to say I thank you for reconsidering your initial decision on the music department. Thank you. My name is Darius Hess. I'm a senior at NFMA. I speak to you today on behalf of my fellow band members, my family. You planned on cutting 5 music teachers. That may have included or displaced our band teacher, Mrs. Morano, as well as the chorus teacher, Mr. Sweats, and impact the future of Newburgh's music program. This will hinder this group's musical education and their musical ability and those who are coming up, especially those who plan on majoring in music. Dr. Campbell, you previously stated that, quote, we are not taking programs away. Moving several music courses to after school will not work for the majority of students, especially those in our band. This past weekend, the music department competed at Music in the Parks. Our band received a superior rating, which is the highest rating you can receive. We also without our dedication and all the time we put in during rehearsals and lessons, we would not have been able to accomplish this. When asked about our performance, Cindy Obe said, quote, it made me realize how far we have come and how far we need to go. And when asked about our teacher, Anna Walsh said, quote, when I found out Mrs. Ouz was retiring, I was nervous, and that our new teacher wouldn't be fun or caring or an overall good person. But new teacher, Mrs. Morano, fills all those boxes. My peers live for music, and I don't think any of you really understood that. We lack in numbers as it is, and if you follow through with this plan, we will have a poor excuse of a band in the years to come. When you all gave your speech on April 9th, initially I had never seen such disregard for musical education in this district. Before you had reconsidered your initial plan, I thought that you were taking away my peers' ability to grow in this field. You would have been taking away our teacher, and you would have been taking away our passion. I hope that everything I've said today sits with you, and I thank you for your time.
The next person signed up to speak is Ms. Talia Beato on the budget.
I'm a junior at NFA Maine. I am the Executive Secretary of Music Council and an AP Music Theory student and one of the madrigals. I am a singer, dancer, and actor in all of the school plays produced here at NFA. And I am here tonight in support of our district's music teachers alongside Newburgh's current and future music students. In light of the recent budget crisis, a rumor has spread that our district plans to cut 5 music positions from the music department. If these cuts were to happen, you will completely destroy one of the most functional and inclusive programs that this district has to offer. By even suggesting this cut, it is obvious that most of you consider music to be a second-class subject or a fun little extra class or even an easy 100. And I'm here to tell you that I could possibly not be more wrong. For music students, the band, chorus, and orchestra teachers are the teachers that make the biggest impact on our lives. For many of us, the music teachers are the first teachers we check in with in the morning, and they are the last teachers we visit at the end of the day. The music rooms are the place we run to when we have really good news or really bad news. Why? It's because the music teachers are the ones who make us feel safe, comfortable, and included. It's the music teachers who have taught us to forge friendships and make connections across cultures through teamwork. It's the music teachers that have proved to us and our parents that being a part of a music ensemble teaches so much more than music. They've taught us to pay attention to what's going on around us. They taught us to know our parts so that we don't let others down. They've taught us emotional learning, social learning, individual learning, and community learning. Your employees in the music department provide an invaluable service to so many students, just like your athletic coaches do. On the opening night of our 2 most recent NFA musical productions, Peter and the Starcatcher and Hairspray, I distinctly remember seeing a majority of you in our audience for the first time. You were all thoroughly impressed by our talent, as you mentioned on a few occasions during these meetings. Well, where exactly do you think we get this talent from? It takes training and practice daily to reach our level of production here at NFA. You are hurting multiple populations of the community members here in NFA if these cuts were to occur, hurting everything that makes our community beautiful and inclusive. I know you wouldn't dream of cutting football or basketball or soccer programs. Why? They build our community. What activities here at NFA draw in the elderly population of this community? I can tell you with utmost confidence, it is not any of the sports teams. These are the same people that come out to vote on our school budget. Fine arts bridge our community through people of all ages. Destroying our music department is destroying our communal integrity altogether. You stand by the mantra, every gold back every day, which I find ironic considering the music department is a crucial part of that every. This cut wouldn't even be considered if you truly stood by your mantra. For every person sitting in front of me that doesn't understand what our kindergarten through 12th grade music teachers do, I assure you that there are hundreds of people in this community that can name your music teachers and tell you exactly what they do. Please reconsider this devastating cut. Thank you for your time and consideration.
The next person signed up to speak is Mr. Julian Lamar on the budget.
Before I begin, I would just like to preface the fact that despite the layoffs you guys said that you would not be including in your recent budget cutting, I still fear for our current positions that are going to be cut. If you would like to further tell us about that later, I'd appreciate it. Good evening, my name is Julian Lamar. I'm a senior at NFA Maine and the former vice president of the Music Council. I represented NECSD as an all-state musician in Rochester in November at the NISMA Conference All-State Festival. I have participated in All-County for the past 3 years and Area All-State for the past 2 years. You may have seen me in performances at NFA Maine's concerts and productions, or at Heritage before that, or even at Bombville. I'm currently a member of the NFA Madrigals, RDW Boys Glee Club, a cappella, and the NFA Jazz Ensemble. Besides singing, I play 2 instruments, and if it helps, I'm an honor student and have a grade point average of 97.2. My older brother graduated from NFA Maine. He earned a degree in music composition and is a music teacher currently. My oldest sister also went to NFA Maine. She earned a degree in art history and is currently a software engineer and computer science teacher. I've been accepted in several colleges based on what I accomplished, and I plan on studying music to become a music educator myself. I'm not telling you this to boast. I'm telling you this because none of this would have happened without the music and arts teachers of the Newburgh and Large City School District. They are the people that made school everything for my siblings and me. I'm not sure if you know, but last month was Music in Our Schools Month. I went to Albany on March 3rd and 4th to represent Newburgh at the New York State Assembly with other NYSSMA All-State musicians. I got to perform for and talk to our state legislators. Two important people to mention are New York State Senator Rachel May and Assembly Member Kimberly Jean-Pierre, who both spoke publicly during a rally held by NYSSMA about the current bills they're working towards, S-285 and 8-1502. Both bills center around incorporating arts and music education into the New York State public school curriculum as a requirement. Our New York State government is currently legislating to preserve music in our schools beyond just extracurricular activities. I'm deeply disappointed that our local school district is considering dismantling one of the best programs Newburgh has to offer. I recently heard praise for our shows and concerts at the board. It's nice to know that you attend the performances and see the community that exists here. But none of that happens without the years of music and arts education we receive from our teachers. Without your educators, you do not have your Newburgh music program. They are the program. I don't mean to discount any of what your other employees do behind the scenes, but I can tell you from my own perspective that the people that made my school parents what it is are all the teachers in this district. Now that the state has restored funding, I think you should prioritize the value of your educators and restore the music and arts positions you are eliminating. It was a really bad idea to try to eliminate them. There is no way you will ever have the caliber of musicians and artists you currently have through an after-school program. What you will do is destroy a music tradition that has been built upon in Newburgh for more than a century. You will be moving opposite of the New York State legislator, and you will be removing music from our schools. There's a huge body of research linking music education to academic performance, but what you may not be aware of is that music is vital to social and emotional development of students from elementary to high school. Quote, the link between music and emotion has contributed to the value of music as a discipline that can be implemented in formal education to develop students' emotional competence. End quote. Blasco and Calatrava, 2020. Quote, one of the advantages of musical activities is that they mostly require collective participation, which requires cooperation and coordination on the part of the members of a society, making them useful tools for the advancement of social and emotional development. End quote. Merriam, 1964. The research is empirical, but I'm here to tell you that it was the music teachers at NECC that helped me navigate the social and emotional challenges of COVID. I was taught music virtually. Do you not know how hard that is? But our music teachers and art teachers figured it out. I swear, this teacher right here, Miss Cassie, she went through every single day to make sure that the meetings that we were in were completely perfect. I could not have told you how much I learned from her in those 2 years. But she stuck with me the entire time and made sure I was a priority. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that in all my life. This department has been a home for me throughout my school years. They are vital figures and role models to our current and incoming students. Today you will hear from us students. And I ask you to listen and realize how the department has made us all a family. We will not stand down from this. Our positions are important here at the school, right? I can't say in any other way how much this department has saved me in a lot of ways. These past 4 years, I can't say how much these teachers have taught me how to be a better person, as an adult, as a child, as a teenager. All in these years here at NECSD, I have had teachers to support me through any problem I've had. And the music department is not just one of them, it is every single position. Again, I please ask you to reconsider any positions you might be thinking of eliminating. And with this new state budget, just reconsider. That's all I can really say. I love music, I love our programs, and we will not stand down. Thank you.
The next person signed up to speak is Mr. Jonathan Black on the budget.
Good evening. The principal concern lies not in the identification of elements slated for removal, but rather the discernment of those deserving of preservation. Today on April 23rd, 2024, I stand resolute in my advocacy for the music department, due to how they fought for me and how they have fought for everyone. During my freshman year, I was a music enthusiast, finding great comfort and resonance within its melodies. Music was not merely a passion, but an essential part of my being, and still is, and forever will be. I embarked on my music journey in 5th grade. When I reached high school, I was ecstatic to see what NFA Maine's A Cappella 4th period 8A class had to offer. Unfortunately, there was an issue with my schedule. For some reason, they could not change it around for me. The choir teacher at the time saw this, and we worked together trying to get this in my schedule. It became such a challenge that she was not the only one fighting for me. Everyone else in the department was too. After weeks of trying to do something, A Cappella 3B was created just for me. They saw a student that loved music and wanted to learn and embrace his passion for it, and they fought for me, time and time again. With this new period all to myself, I was able to improve and learn more about the thing I love most, music. As I stand here today, I am compelled to reciprocate the same fervor and dedication to the music department that once did for me. Throughout my years of NFA, it did not take long to see that the music department is more than an academic entity. It's been a sanctuary, a home where students find support and artistic expression. To undermine the music department would be a tragedy. The collective efforts of students and educators within the music department yield extraordinary results, shaping not only our artistic endeavors, but also our identities. The music department is built by the fantastic teachers that us students are blessed to have. In all of my years I've been educated, the music teachers are always the one who seem to care and go the extra mile for their students. The ones I can talk to and feel safe around. They express their care for their students by being there, making, learning, and creating music fun, and how they fight for us. Now it's our turn to fight for them. Letting these teachers go and putting the music department in jeopardy is not the right move. I've grown as a person and learned more about myself due to NFA Music's music department in ways I never thought I could. Once I heard the only way I could express myself in the place I attend 5 days a week was being revoked, I was heartbroken. I knew that in that moment I had to step up. I had to fight for not just the current teachers and students, but the ones who will come after them. They should always have this fantastic opportunity that was blessed upon me. The music department is always the shortest straw and the last player picked. The least you could do is let it stay. Let us keep what brings color and diversity to the district, our home, the music department. Thank you for your time.
The next person signed up to speak is Mr. Brian Baxter on the budget.
Good evening to you all. My name is Brian Baxter. I'm a senior at NFA Maine. I am the current Executive Music Council President. And I am a member of NFA's orchestra, a cappella, RDW Boys Glee, and the Madrigals. First, I'd like to thank you on your reconsideration of music teacher layoffs. However, I am still concerned about the refilling of positions that are intended to be lost from retiring teachers. Before you tonight stands all of my fellow peers, some of them not even here to speak, to show you the strength of the community we have built here in the music department. This community was fostered by our teachers who taught us how to work together as a team and as community members. For many of us, as many who have already spoken have said, these teachers have had an insurmountable impact on our personal lives. For me, I've always been a very musical person. I've had just this affinity for it since I was a young kid. And it was these teachers from the elementary level to the middle school level to the high school level who all fostered this interest and turned it into something that I'm now pursuing as a career. I intend to attend a music college and pursue a career as a music educator. Without my orchestra teacher, Mrs. Antonelli Guido, I would not have developed much of the musical skills that I have today. She has guided me throughout the 3 years I've had her in improving my skill and bettering myself as a person and increasing my work ethic. Mr. S., my choir teacher, who I met more recently last year, has flipped my life upside down in a way I couldn't even imagine. He had this way of pushing me outside of my comfort zone, pushing me to pursue things that I didn't have the confidence to do before. I would never have become a singer without him. And he's bettered me as a person because of it. And many other students can share a very similar story. Without these teachers, we're simply not the people who we stand before you as. I think, sorry, give me a minute. Thank you, that is all.
The next person signed up to speak is Ms. Tracy Wallace on the budget.
Good evening. Tonight, I'm a parent. I'm sorry, my name is Tracy. I come here often. I talk about my kids. I have 4 children, 3 in the district. I'm talking about, tonight I would like to talk about only my son, Liam, who is not an exceptional learner. He is a regular student. Tonight I would like to talk about my son, Liam, and his journey in the school district. He began his journey in Horizon in the pre-K program. He had an IEP and received OT services in 2018 and 2019 for fine motor skills. Liam was transferred to Vales Gate the following year. He did not receive OT services in kindergarten in 2019 and 2020 because he did not qualify for continued services based on his scores on his IEP eligibility evaluation. In 2020, COVID hit. His 2020 classes were virtual. Only a few students attended. The teacher played word games with them for about an hour for the entire remainder of the year. After 2 years of being a virtual student due to distancing from COVID, he returned to in-person instruction in September 2021 in Vales Gate. He was diagnosed with anxiety because of the separation between him and myself. He did not speak, he did not participate in the classroom, oftentimes breaking down in tears. After speaking with his teacher about his diagnosis, the teacher was much easier on him in the classroom. Liam's teacher saw that he was far behind in math and reading. His teacher recommended that he have an academic intervention. The intervention that Vales Gate had at the time was an hour from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. daily with a retired teacher that helped him with reading and math. By the end of the year, the intervention and supportive education that he received from a retired teacher had a major impact on Liam so much that his reading level and reading comprehension level improved significantly. Not only did he improve academically, but his confidence in the classroom improved as well. He received praises for his reading, participation, and group work in the classroom. In September of 2022, Liam was transferred to Guinea Avenue School. Although he improved the year before, he was still behind significantly in reading and writing. He was taken out of academic intervention after only a few months because I was told via emails and messages with his teacher that other students needed the services more than he did. In September 2023, Liam was tested with ERLA, from which he was on the 1st grade level of reading. I was given those results in November 2023, which I came here and shared. Like Liam, many students are in academic intervention currently to improve in many areas of learning as a result of COVID. The 2024-2025 budget that includes layoffs to supportive personnel, civil service employees, CSEA that include teachers' aides, teacher personnel, including retired teachers and teachers' assistants, among other jobs, will have a significant impact on children in the district because they have one-on-one intervention and interaction with the children in which children need to succeed. All the children like Liam, who were greatly impacted by COVID, are being set up to fail. I understand that some of these positions were funded by the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. What do you have in place to support these kids that need supportive education services with children like Liam who do not qualify for an IEP or 504?
The next person signed up to speak is Ms. Dawn Fruchek on the budget. The next person signed up to speak is Ms. Irene Hughes on the budget.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear that cuts won't be made this year, and thank you for that. I feel my comments are still worthwhile. Unfortunately, this isn't my first time coming to this board to advocate for music and arts in our schools. I am asking you to kindly reconsider the proposal to eliminate art and music positions in this district. I understand there are budgetary issues, and decisions need to be made to mitigate those concerns. But I ask that you consider the negative impact on students, that you've heard from many of them here today, that will directly tie to any elimination or consolidation of the arts. If cuts need to be made in this district, I feel compelled to ask if all programs will be facing cuts. Will all programs take the same percentage cuts as the arts? Will football or basketball or any other sports be eliminated because the spending needs to be trimmed? I can't help but feel that the arts are a low-hanging fruit in this district when it comes time for any type of spending cuts. Since middle school, I've had to fight year after year to keep music in my son's schedule. I've been told there wasn't availability or that there simply wasn't enough time in his day to fit it in. And most horrifically, I was twice told that my son could choose to be in honors courses or to be in music, but not both. I don't think I need to stand here again and tell you that those two things often go hand in hand. An incredible group of high school students just performed spectacularly this weekend at Music in Our Parks. Newburgh was well represented in chorus, band, and orchestra. This would be an accomplishment worth noting in any case, but more so considering how significantly the high school music teachers have had to work to rebuild the music program because of gaps that have been created at lower levels in the past few years. I know the orchestra alone has some young talent that are only just revisiting their instrument after years of absence because of scheduling and other issues. Music and art are the motivation and connection that many students make to school, just as athletics can be the driving force behind an otherwise disengaged student maintaining good standing and academic progress. Music is that drive for so many. As a student myself at NFA many years ago, music occupied no less than 3 of my periods each day. This was my group. This was my reason to be excited about going to school, and this was my family. And yes, I was an honors student who was never forced to choose between the two. At the last meeting, I heard the word consolidation instead of elimination, and I ask you to consider not just the choice of that word, but the application of that tactic wisely. I hope that you don't plan to offer music and art only at some elementary schools, thereby forcing students to be subject to the elementary lottery as their only means of exposure to the arts. I hope that your plan is not to expect elementary school teachers to fill in the gaps left behind by vacating these positions. I hope that you won't again force the lottery system into play for students by eliminating music from one middle school entirely. As my last trip to this board was in regard to low performance results in testing, it's probably only fitting for me to connect my points. I can read you countless statistics and research on the benefits of arts education in K-12, but I imagine you can find the same research that I had available to me. It's common knowledge that the arts help in creativity, cognitive skills, confidence, emotional development, memory, social skills, and the list goes on. Music specifically activates both sides of the brain simultaneously, and that activation of both hemispheres maximizes learning and improves memory. Learning to read music and to play music is learning another language, and that is a universally accepted language. Given those state-based performance results, it would seem irresponsible to reduce or eliminate programs that help to improve educational retention and understanding. I heard many of you board members speak last meeting about the hazards of cutting the arts, and I hope that you will stay strong in that position and fight for what you know is important. Please continue to fight for the arts, not just for this budget, but beyond, and to keep the arts going in the future. Thank you.
The next person to speak on agenda items will be Ms. Andrea Turso on the budget.
Good evening. My name is Andrea Turso. I'm a New Windsor resident. I have a daughter at Heritage Middle School who just participated in their drama production this past weekend. So I'm just very thankful to hear those programs for now will not be cut, and a son at the elementary level in Gardnertown. I'm here tonight to speak about the budget. We are currently in a $10 million deficit, and the governor has restored aid. Yet as far as I can see, nothing has changed in our budget. We are still taking an exorbitant amount of money from the fund balance, as well as raising taxes above the cap and laying off employees. At the previous 2 budget presentation meetings, you projected an even larger deficit in the coming years. Excuse me, I lost my place. I should probably not look up from my phone. Excuse me if I don't look up again. At the last, that's right, I just added this, that's why. Which leads me to believe that unfortunately these people might be back here next year fighting for their music education again. At the last board meeting, during the budget presentations, you also spoke of vacancies and retirements which are not being filled, yet also said that this would not have a negative impact on our scholars. And I understand you have met with every administrator to assess the needs at each building. However, I still don't quite understand how not filling so many of those positions does not affect our scholars. If I am a secondary teacher and see 125 students a day, and I'm retiring and not being replaced, who is seeing those 125 students next year? One can only assume, because it has not been made clear, that class sizes will be increasing, and this directly affects our students. I sincerely hope a board member will ask for this clarification. Our class size is going to increase. On the new administration positions on tonight's agenda, I ask the board to seriously think about the perception of optics and approving 2 new central office administrators while laying off staff members. 2 new central office positions. Are they both really necessary at this time when we are in this financial crisis? And also, what is the rush with getting them pushed through? Does that mean the positions are already spoken for? The agenda states effective tomorrow. Wouldn't the correct course of events be approval of the creation of the position, then hiring? The assumption is the assumption that these positions will be approved with no question. How would one know that? I understand Mrs. Moriarty is retiring and the district needs a curriculum instruction specialist. I agree, that is a necessary position. But an associate superintendent for administration? What does this position entail? Are they in charge of the administrators across the district? We have a superintendent and a deputy superintendent. Why do we need another? Administrators can be in the charge of our current superintendent and deputy superintendent. Board members, if you are approving central office administration while letting go of hardworking people in this district, please realize what this says and what it looks like to this community. Your goal is to get a budget passed where you are piercing the tax cap and need a simple majority. This is not the way to do it. Please do not misunderstand me. I will always vote yes for a school budget because I know firsthand the only people who suffer from a budget going down are the students. Unfortunately, many in this Newburgh community think voting no will somehow stick it to them. They look to air their frustrations about our district and its leadership by voting a budget down because it's the one place their voice can be heard. If the budget goes down, more programs or jobs could be lost. No one wants this, and I hope the community members realize voting no will help no one. Please, I beg this board to ask questions and think about what the Newburgh community will think when you approve the creation of yet another central office administrator that will have no direct contact with students when you're letting go of people who see students every day. On another note related to the budget, at the last meeting, Dr. Manning Campbell, more information will be provided about the administrator's trip to Las Vegas. I was very disappointed at the fact that not one board member questioned the agenda item when I spoke in March. I understand these administrators might learn new techniques, new programs to bring back to our district, but we are in a financial crisis and we're sending administrators all over the country. As far as new programs, ideas, or initiatives that might come out of these conferences, no program will succeed in the district unless you have a full backing of your faculty and staff. I urge these board members to communicate with faculty and gauge the morale of this district. Board members, please take a close look at these administrative positions being created and ask yourself, is now the time? Is it absolutely necessary? Thank you for your time.
several speakers lined up.
The first person to speak on non-agenda items is Ms. Jillian Cassidy.
Good evening. My name is Jillian Cassidy, and I'm reporting on behalf of the NECSD Music Program Subcommittee under Article 25, subsection N of the contract. The committee was tasked to make recommendations to bring the district's music department back to its pre-2011 strength. To determine current status, we used three major assessments. We used the Orange County Music Educators Association directories from 1998 to present. We used the conditions that support music education checklist and the opportunity to learn standards as needs assessment for music instruction checklist. We found that while the 2024 student population closely mirrors that of 2010-11, staff levels have yet to reach those seen in that period. The district currently scores 8 of 26 possible points on the conditions that support music education checklist, putting the district in the category of state of academic emergency, in part due to lack of district policies regarding music, lack of continuity of leadership, lack of policies that support professional development for music teachers, and lack of a clearly articulated vision that supports a comprehensive music education program. The opportunity to learn standards as needs assessment for music instruction finds the district is currently failing to achieve the basic rating in every category measured, those categories being general music pre-K to grade 8, performing ensembles and lessons, and specialized areas including harmonizing instruments, theory, composition, and so forth. In terms of scheduling, we found that student access to music instruction depends greatly upon which building a student attends. School A on your handout appears to be spreading resources evenly. School B, however, is providing general music twice per cycle to grades K through 5, and not at all to grades 6 through 8. Instrumental lessons are provided but are of unequal length because the teacher lacks sufficient lesson periods. School C is providing general music every other day to grade 6, but not at all to grades 7 and 8. Additional findings and schedules show the needs of the master schedule seem to be prioritized over pedagogical needs or educational needs of children. In terms of equipment and materials, the committee found that there is currently no articulated strategic 5-year financial plan for updating or replacing classroom materials and instruments aligned with the recommended 5% of inventory value. The majority of the instruments were purchased prior to 1965, with only 3 pianos, for example, being purchased after 1965. The expected lifespan of most instruments is 7 to 15 years. The average age of music instruments in Newburgh is 50. The last major purchase of instruments was in 1996 with the opening of Heritage Middle School. On slide 12, you have some pictures of the instruments currently being provided to Newburgh students. In professional development, we found district-level professional development to be generalized to the entire teaching population and not specific to music teacher populations, which is needed. In terms of facilities, we found music teachers teaching on CART, preventing certain recommended modalities of teaching, especially for young children, such as moving, wharf instruments, etc. In most cases, there is insufficient space for movement in the primary grades. The summary of the findings indicates significant and widespread staffing, program resources, student opportunity deficits across all grade levels and areas within the department. Newburgh students do not currently receive services or opportunities equitable with those provided to their counterparts in other districts. Committee's recommendations for the 24-25 school year. Replicate the Buffalo Pre-K Literacy Study, which showed measurable gains in literacy with music intervention, with the greatest gains shown in the neediest students. In addition, we recommend you standardize scheduling across grade levels and buildings. Establish and communicate district-wide minimum standards and expectations for frequency and duration of general music performing ensembles and lessons in each grade. We give recommendations for those specifically. In terms of staffing and scheduling, we recommend the district audit music schedules to determine the extent of inequities in scheduling with the intent of balancing access and finding missed opportunities while complying with regulations. We found that 9-period day would increase the number of both classrooms and periods available for instruction. In terms of training and PD, the committee recommends training pre-K teachers in the previously mentioned Buffalo intervention over the summer with additional training in 24-25 to provide music services and raise literacy. In terms of equipment and material, the district needs to start budgeting for replacement and repairs, create a stipend for in-house instrument repairs to save on smaller repairs and prevent larger ones, and create a stipend for instrument inventory reconciliation and repair identification. In facilities, please prioritize appropriate learning spaces for music instruction for students and consider a 9-period day to increase the number of spaces and periods available. In summary, the district is not meeting the standard to ensure that no young American is deprived of the chance to meet standards. It's our conclusion the department has never recovered from the cuts beginning in 2011. The deficits are widespread and institutionalized, and the district needs to take an informative, methodical approach to correct them. Looking through the lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion, corrective action is needed immediately. All children should have equitable access to music education. It should not matter what zip code they live in. Thank you for your time. We stand up.
The next person signed up to speak is Ms. Victoria Boucher.
Good evening. Can you hear me? We're good? All right. My name is Victoria Boucher, as you may already know. I have been a resident of the town of New Windsor for 30 years. I currently have a 4-year-old Hispanic son that holds an IEP in this district. I received a district email today at 2:35 p.m. There was mention of sound bites and summaries from others who have their own agendas. I am not here with an agenda. I am here to speak for the hundreds of students and parents that have been wronged by this district. Questioning where money is, where money went, how money is spent, is a crucial part of understanding how this district works. We, the people, want to make sure that our money and the money you receive is being allocated properly. We have a right to ask questions. We have a right to question the decisions you make. We have a right to know what is going on, as we, the people, are the district. We are not ignorant to the truth, so please stop insinuating that. As you are now addressing public comments, I do have a few questions that have been comprised by parents, taxpayers, and teachers in your district. How many special education teachers who are required to test the children placed on their caseloads each year, either with the Wyatt or Woodcock-Johnson test instrument, have never received training from these companies or even an in-house training by this district's special education department? Is it not illegal to require untrained teachers to administer these tests whose results are critical to what's placed in a student's IEP as far as services and needs? Aren't you risking their license by doing this? Would you go to a dermatologist for an open heart surgery? Probably not. Why are special educators not allowed to meet with other special educators across the district? Math teachers meet with other math teachers regularly, if not daily. English teachers meet with other English teachers regularly, if not daily. Why are special educators prevented from sharing data on their shared students? How can this not be meaningful? Why haven't you changed schedules to accommodate this? ARC was deemed not appropriate by consultants you hired last year from BOCES to evaluate the program, since you did not evaluate it. Those experts specifically targeted self-contained classrooms in particular, and how the components of reading are not addressed for classified students in these settings, nor are special educators supported with time to create their own materials which are lacking in ARC. Why have you refused to follow the advice you paid for? Why have you again wasted another year of not teaching reading to our high school students in general, but in particular those who have disabilities? Is this legal? Is it ethical to graduate students who are illiterate? In this current financial environment you have placed on us, for whatever reason, the tax increases proposed and the draining of our reserves and the removal of 102 jobs, why are you allowing the continuation of Project Search, which has cost the district thousands of dollars for only a handful of students? When the district already has a similar program in place, why is this outsourced? How many students' IEPs will not be completed by the appropriate deadline again? What I am asking is what is going to make this year different than any other year since the Assistant Superintendent of Exceptional Learners came here. Every student in every grade that has an IEP must have an annual review and a finalized IEP in place and in the hands of those parents before the next school year. That has not happened for many years now, and that means that both teacher and student schedules are incorrect at the start of the year and our kids suffer. So what are you going to make different this year? Lastly, why has there been no counselor at Bombville for a year? To my understanding, there was one there for a week, but then nothing. The best prediction of future behavior is past behavior. That is a fact that you can't dispute, especially here. I highly encourage you to do the right thing. Our job is to make our kids succeed. School is supposed to be a tool in that process. We should be seen as an example, not the joke. Thank you.
The last person signed up to speak is Ms. Tracy Wallace.
Hello? Okay. This message is actually for the board. The board approved conferences recently to Las Vegas called the Innovative School Summit for 5 individuals from the district at $4,000 per person, and a conference in New York City called Learning in the Brain, Future Ready Brains for 5 individuals from the district for $2,600 per person. I blame the board members for approving these conferences and not looking into the cheaper alternatives. I looked into this. The virtual pass they offer for the Las Vegas conference per person is $295 per person. And only $50 for a virtual pass to the conference for the New York City conference. There's a difference between $50 and $2,600. There's a difference between $4,000 per person and $295 per person for a virtual pass for these conferences. It is the role of the board to look into and approve the conferences the administration asks for to be approved. I'm asking the board to do their job and look into all proposals and or conferences the administration asks for, and this being an example of something the board should have looked into before approving. Another item that I wanted to talk about was the Tier 1 and Tier 2. My question about Tier 1 is regular curriculum. Tier 2 is intervention. My son last year was unable to get supportive education and intervention because there were too many students getting intervention currently. My question is, if there's a large amount of students that are currently getting intervention due to the impacts of COVID, how are you supporting the students, one, and how is Tier 1 working if there are so many kids in Tier 2 intervention?
Thank you. Would anyone else in the audience like to speak on non-agenda items?
Yes, I'd like to speak.
Welcome.
Hello, good evening. How are you? Joseph Andrews, Local 836, Executive Vice President, CSEA. Just a reminder, not too sure, the numbers vary, and I don't exactly know what I'm hearing or what I'm not hearing or what needs to be explained further, but just remember the importance of our essential workers for CSEA and what we do for this district. Okay, a very wise person named Lisa Bond once told me that the tree is only as strong as its roots. You cut it from the roots, the tree will not grow, the tree will die. So please remember that. On a different note, I've got to tell you, music is near and dear to my heart. I know there's a lot of music people here. Believe it or not, I work for the school district, but I am a violinist. And I'm not too shabby. I'm not going to play for you tonight, but President DeRay did say, name, a teacher that really inspired you. I'd like to rattle off some names and I'll show you my age. Mrs. Noreen Davis, Mr. Rick McCurdy, Mrs. Grace Bowles, Mr. Don Franklin, Mr. Frank Merida, Mrs. Beeman, and Mr. Chris Zudas. I performed for La County, I performed for New York State as well. I represented the school district for many, many years. I just turned 50 on the 14th. Music stays with you forever, and it will. It doesn't matter where your careers take you or what you choose to do, but music will always be there. It was my first love, and I hope it remains your love. So you guys are great. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, good evening. My name is Hector Reyes. I am an employee of the district and a Fargo student at HOH. My son was recently suspended from school on a test day for an incident that seems to have been exaggerated. I was told my son was suspended for spilling water in a staircase. My son has never been suspended. And he has been interrogated on several different occasions and been asked the same questions over and over in search for specific answers. Administration has told me there's video proof and has refused to share with me. My son is in a 12-1-1 setting and is diagnosed with autism. His mental health has been negatively impacted and he is reluctant to go to school. My wife, who is also an employee of the district, has been so targeted in my eyes. I am not looking for answers right now, but I just to bring awareness to the situation and advocate for my son and other students that deal with the same thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak? Please come forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Shadi Burks. I have a son within the Newburgh Light City School District. I'm up here just to speak on behalf of the family, the young man that just came up here. He called me last week, and listening to his story literally gave me chills because I remember that was my fight when my son was in kindergarten. And, you know, I just encourage him to come to this board meeting and speak up for his son and advocate for his son. I'm a big advocator. I believe that every parent needs that right to do so. And some parents, unfortunately, they just don't have the confidence to because they get nervous. So I'm so happy that him and his wife was here to speak tonight. Also, on behalf of his wife is a wonderful TA. She happened to be my son's TA last year. I speak a lot about my son, and I do always say that I did not agree with his placement on last year. What helped me during that school year was his social worker, his TA, and some other people outside of the classroom. If it had not been for Miss Perry, I don't know what I would have done because she helped me a lot when it came to my son, and when I would show up to the school, she let me know what was going on. So I'm here to advocate for her family and her son, and hopefully things, you know, work out for them and things get moving for them. I'm also here to speak on the music department and the layoffs. TAs and teachers and security guards and everyone else that will be affected, they are a large part of our school community. A lot of our children depend on our TAs. A lot of them depend on the music department. Music is so important, especially with children with disabilities. I can only tell you how my son loves to play the drums. He cares less to do math or reading, even though he's passing in those subjects, and I would love for him to focus more. I can't stop him from playing the drums. It helps to soothe his mind. It helps to relax him. And even though that's not the thing that I want to hear at 6 o'clock in the morning when I'm getting ready for work, I don't want to hear them tapping on them books, but I know that's what's calming him, and so I let him tap on them books until we're ready to walk out that door, because I know that's what helps him get ready for the day. So I just urge you just to go over this budget again and see what we can do to keep our TAs in place, to keep our music department in place. I heard the young man come up here and speak, and he said, you know, this will not only impact him, but those that are to come in the future. My son will be a future music student because he does love to play the drums. So how will this budget and this cut impact him? Not only him, other students that depend on the music and the arts department. Have a good night, everyone.
Hello. I'm John Fisher, CSEA's president here in the district. Just want to say that I don't wish to be tasked with your job, with the decision that you have to make. But what I do want to offer is an invitation to come to the district to see what CSEA does here, to see how much ground we cover. We don't have the privilege of 25 students. We have the privilege of a building, from the custodian, the food service worker, the health clerk, the clerical, and security. We will not forget security. We can never have enough security. We got you in this house. We got an appointment. And again, I understand that decisions have to be made. I'm not going to question them. But what I want you to do is really think hard
Mr. President. So I'm speaking part as a board member and part as a parent of a performing arts student. So a couple of things. Firstly, I would like to thank Dr. Manny Campbell for putting back 2 music and 1 arts teacher back into the budget. I'm guessing that it was, she had to deal with people that might have been pushing back because she took reserves out to fund these positions going back in. So I'm sure that was tough to do. I will, and I know your objective is not to destroy the program and build it up, but I will continue to do what I can to make sure the other positions eventually get put back in, because I think it's important. So a couple of quick things. My son was accepted to, got scholarships to, placed out of classes and graduated early from Berkeley College of Music because of the teachers in our programs. The music teachers, the performing arts teachers, and it is something that I will be grateful for, and I know he is. And just another thing that happened, this past weekend I went to the New Windsor Elementary Drama Club production. I went to the Heritage Musical, middle school musical. I went to a high school play, but Newburgh wasn't having it, so I went to Spack and Kill. Actually, Matthew was playing there, so I went to that. And then I went to a professional production at West Point, all in one weekend. And I really believe that if we make cuts, I've seen it before with music and arts, we make the cuts, there's a couple of years that are lean, it takes years and years to get back to what it was. And I don't wish Newburgh to be in that position. I hope they continue on. And again, I will do what I can to keep fighting for those programs. Thank you.
Mr. Levenstein. Anyone else for non-agenda items? Okay. With that, we're going to recess into executive session. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby recesses into executive session for the following purpose: employment history of particular individuals, and the matters leading to the employment of particular individuals, collective bargaining under the Taylor Law, EPA, and SAA, and to obtain advice from legal counsel. We entertain a motion and a second to recess into executive session. So moved.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levenstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes. Thank you. We will be back in about 1 hour. The Board President items. I have 1 resolution and 1 item for discussion, followed by 1 resolution to add. So Resolution 5.1, motion to entertain a motion to.
So moved.
Yeah, thank you. Any discussion on item 5.1? Call the roll.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Levenstein?
No.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes. Item 5.2 is for discussion only. Policies regarding the Newburgh Free Library. Any discussion on these items? My part of the discussion is we did vet these items at the library meeting. We went through each one, and we believe that they're in good shape to come to vote at the next meeting. right, I have another resolution, and we'll need a motion to add.
So moved.
Second. Okay, I will read it first. Be resolved that the Board of Education of the Newburgh Enlarged City School District hereby approves the board committee membership below for the 2023 to 2024 school year. We are forming an education committee. The chair is Mr. Howard, co-chairs Ms. Politti, member Ms. Mineo, and Mr. Harvey. For audit and finance, we're adding Mr. Grant. Could I get a motion and a second to add this?
So moved.
Second.
Roll, right?
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politti?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Okay. Could we get a motion and a second on the item?
Second.
Any discussion on this item? Yours.
Mr. President,
Oh, yes, sir.
I was curious, who will be the central office liaison for that committee?
Phil, I apologize.
I'll check with Dr. Campbell, Mr. Howard. I'm
No,
not sure.
I didn't hear you. I'm sorry.
He wanted to know who the
acoustics are so
central office liaison is for this committee.
bad. Okay. We'll get you the information.
Roll call. Mr. Levinstein? Yes. Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politti?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to the superintendent's update, and we will wait till she's in attendance. I will move on to item 6.2, Newburgh proposed budget presentation. Ms. Roaring will be conducting that.
Actually, Dr. Campbell's presenting with me, so can we move to item 6.3 and do the capital project presentation first?
I think we have people. That would be fine. We'll move on to 6.3, which is the capital project update.
While they're walking up, I'll just take a moment to introduce the people who will be presenting this evening. We have Tom Ritzenthaler from CS Arch, Ben Alling and Dave Latour from Jacobs will also be presenting this evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to give you a capital update tonight. I'm Tom Ritzenthaler with CS Arch, and I have Ben Ailing from Jacobs with me. We're going to go through the slides pretty quickly. A lot of this is redundant from previous information that we've presented. I want to really get to the slides that have changed to give you the update on each of the projects. And just for the public, the entire slideshow, of course, is on the district's website through the agenda. So we're going to go through Heritage Middle School, the site circulation project, the elevated concrete walk project, the locker room renovation project, the new CTE building, and then we'll do a budget review, and we'll talk about the New Windsor School. Ben Ailing is going to talk about New Windsor School. I always put this up. School construction, a program really is to improve education for children. A lot of good news to report tonight in that regard. So let's start with the circulation project. As you know, this is to relieve a lot of the tension on queuing cards off of Heritage, off of Union Avenue, and improve the drop-off and the sequence around the site, and also add the secondary exit entrance to Heritage Middle School. So we did submit to the Education Department. We had our SED approval. We advertised and received bids on April 11th, and on the docket tonight is our recommendation for award of these contracts for the Board of Education's consideration. We certainly want to start this construction as early as next month in May, and substantial completion is set for August 30th of this year. So some Good news, we received 3 bids for the work. You can see the 3 bids are present there from Argenio, Palladino, and Butler. The recommended low bid is Argenio Brothers Incorporated at $2,650,650. Just to remind the board, our construction budget was a little over $3.1 million. So right now, this would put us about a little over $500,000 under budget. So that's good news, and we're right on track with schedule. So on the concrete project, the emergency replacement project, if we just go to the, so just give you some latest views of the construction as it comes along. It's looking very, very nice. Again, we awarded that contract. We had anticipated the scheduled completion for last year. As we all know, there's been a lot of issues related to some delays in both the shop drawing process as well as material lead times. We have been told now that the lead times for the storefronts and the doors that we're waiting for are in early July. So we're estimating substantial completion as July 30th of this year, and then we'll do the closeout in August. It is fully operational, though, so it's not restricting any use of the weight rooms or the gymnasiums or any of those exitways. So for the locker room renovations, this is probably the easiest update. We are at SED, and we are still awaiting our approval from SED. We're anticipating that approval in July of this year, when we'll anticipate a public bid sometime in September, and we'll award the contracts for a mid-October Board of Education consideration, start construction this November, and as was always projected, complete the project August 1st of '25. So now let's talk CTE building. Certainly something the public has long awaited. So we do have all the graphics that we showed last time. We can kind of go through these. Nothing has changed with these. And all the wonderful renderings of what the building is going to look like very soon. And so if we talk about the schedule, we're going to... Okay, so we did submit to the Education Department, as we all know, in January, end of January. We got the SED face-to-face review. We anticipated the approval. We do have our approval, and so we are approved through the Education Department. And as anticipated, we're out to bid. So we are out to bid currently with the CTE building. Went out to bid on Monday of last week. We're looking at awarding the contracts in June with a start of construction in late June of this year. So again, good news. We're approved by the Education Department, and we are out to bid right now. We have a lot of contractor interest in this project, which is good to see. We are still anticipating completion July 31st of '26 because the schedule is for the district to have move-in in August of '26 for the school program to begin September of 2026. So let's go through the budgeting. And I don't know whether, David, maybe you want to come and talk about the budgeting for, oh, David's not up here. Ben, you want to go through the budget?
Yes, so this estimate is based on the 100% CD set, and right now budgeting at 99 million and change, and we've broken down right here what the individual package costs would be for each of the trade contracts. And again, this is just an estimate, so hope with competitive pricing and bidding that this number will come in hopefully lower than what we've got here. And this is just the overall view of the program budget cost. Some actuals have been put in here based on recent awards, but this slide just shows mostly what we estimated for some of these project costs for the Proposition 4. As reporting for New Windsor, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing prime contractors have been procuring material for the job in preparation for work to start in the existing building come this summer. The three sections of building that they're focusing on right now are C, D, and E of the existing wings, the upper and lower level. And if we go to the next slide, you can see what we anticipate doing this summer for that work, mainly mechanical related work with the electrical service work to facilitate that. And you can see these highlighted areas are the three sections that we would anticipate doing that work in. And same thing on this upper level.
Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't know whether this is the appropriate question here for this particular setting, but I would like to know, is there any provision in there to hire the local kids here in the city of Newburgh on this project?
Just a bit of good news from the Hudson Valley Building Trades Council. They are actually going to, and I'll allow them to present to you, but they are going to have a special pre-apprenticeship program for Newburgh students. And what that means is that pre-apprenticeship program allows those students a pathway not only to the trade work at the CTE building, what that building will provide to the district, but also a union position in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Along those lines, are we also going to make sure that local workers have opportunities to work on these jobs, these facilities, and that there will be women involved and somewhat of the minority women, black women enterprise? Are we going to try to follow some of that? Because I know the last time we had a situation like this, it was spoken to after the fact. And I know we talked about next time when we have an opportunity to do a capital project, we're going to make sure that stuff is talked about in front. And I believe 3 or 4 meetings ago, we had that conversation. And I'm curious, was there ever a meeting or a discussion between the district and the contractors in regards to that? I know it was supposed to be, it was spoken about, but I want to know, did it take place?
It was spoken about. We have not had the opportunity to sit with them and have that conversation yet. That's something we're still looking to do.
But we are going to do it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we were back to 6.16.
Thank you. I apologize. Thank you for switching around the agenda. This afternoon, I shared a message with our community with information about the budget. Our NECSD community members can find that information in their email. It has also been posted on our district website. I am not going to read it for you tonight, but there are a few things that I would like to reiterate. The district has been transparent about the budget and alerted our community that changes were imminent last budget season. Despite our challenges, the instructional integrity of our programming remains intact. Regardless of changes that are being made, our class sizes have remained virtually identical as compared to before the pandemic, and in some cases, they have decreased. Despite repeated distractions, my team and I have been engaged in a 2-year process that has included building leaders, teachers, support staff, student voice, industry standards, evidence-based practices, equity, enrollment, and the superintendent's goals to ensure current programs are supported and projections are kept in mind while focusing on our fiscal responsibility to our taxpayers. The district is in a healthy financial position. We are in the middle of a 2-year plan that we are executing with grace and fortitude, with an emphasis on fiscal excellence and supporting student and staff success. Managing a $350 million budget is a large task. I am managing the 10th largest district in New York State. I am confident in the professionals on my team, and I will continue to be transparent in my approach to educating our children. I encourage our community to think critically and recognize the source of your information. Thank you. As I mentioned during our last meeting, my team and I will be doing our best to reply to public comment following executive sessions. Dr. Freeman Mack will now speak to professional development, specifically with regard to a conference in Las Vegas and instructional materials. Dr. Freeman Mack.
Thank you. As it lends itself to the comprehensive conference that is in Las Vegas, it will be proposed at the next board meeting for rescission of this decision to send individuals to the professional development that was offered in Las Vegas. We are looking for professional development that is closer to the district during the school year. Initial thinking was attending a conference in the summer would have less of an impact to the students and to the staff, the students in the building. And to send a team to a conference in the summer is really a great opportunity for them to attend every single session that they can and really provide some professional development to support teamwork and coming back with a plan. But as I stated, we will rescind the decision to send, and we will look for professional development that is a little closer to home for the team that was going there. As it relates to instructional materials, we are in the process of concluding a full inventory of our instructional materials to understand what we have and what is being used in our buildings. The New York State Next Gen standards will be unpacked with our teachers, with our administrators, as well as our year-long context of instruction in all content areas. And these examinations will support and should occur like on a yearly basis for our students so we can continue to evolve our curriculum, our associated resources, and we also, look to evolve to ensure alignment with the resources, with our standards, and with the instructional strategies and the units of implementation. So we are looking to examine all of that to support student achievement and academic success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Freeman Mack. Mr. Christopher Bayer will be speaking to several items asked about our Exceptional Learners Program.
Thank you, Dr. Freeman Mack, Dr. Minikettle. There were a couple of items that were brought to our attention. One of the questions is why don't we bring special education teachers and educators together across the district? That's in fact happened on 2 occasions this year. We have provided training for psychoeducational assessments that special educators are required to conduct. Most recently, we had over 100 special educators at Meadow Hill on April 2nd for the half-day professional development. So that does occur, and it occurs as needed. So that's the one item. Second is, there was a question about IEPs and the implementation of IEPs. I did not have an opportunity to bring this up previous to the board's attention, but back in the fall, if you remember, there were questions about why are we seeing annual reviews showing up in October and November on board agendas. Annual reviews occur in the late winter into June, July, August. Those IEPs must be in place by September. What we found is that we're working with the vendors that when they pull information from IEP Direct, which is the data management system we use, they were pulling kids who transferred. So if you're a child who had an IEP on May, an annual review, we finalize that IEP as an annual review, you then leave the district on September 30th, it was erroneously pulling that document and asking you as a board to approve it. You're not authorized to approve kids leaving. They can leave with or without our permission. So when we went to the vendors, we realized that was a glitch in the system. So many of the annual reviews that appeared to be approved after the start of the school year were in fact kids that were no longer attending Newburgh. The important thing is students were in school the first day of school and were provided the programs that were in their IEPs as per law. So that's just a misunderstanding. As far as a social worker at Bonneville, we've had 3 social workers in Bonneville over close to a year. We had 2 retirements. Certainly it's not something I'm used to, not retirements, resignations. In the interim, we have asked a number of staff members to fill in when they can. Most recently, we put a plan in place to move 2 social workers into the building, so there's a daily social work presence, probably for the past 2 or 3 weeks. You'll see on the board agenda tonight that we approved a social worker to work at Bonneville, and I believe she's starting in the next couple of weeks, and she'll be here for the rest of the school year. We write our related services as an annual service, so we have the opportunity to make up those services for students, so that's been occurring as we can, and we hope to make up all the services as per IEPs by the end of June. And I believe, and there was a lot of comments about individual student concerns. I continue to say over and over again to the board and to the public, we are not allowed to talk about individual student concerns. We're also not allowed to discuss misconceptions that are brought to our attention. So things are said sometimes that we know are false, but we can't correct those publicly because that's would violate privacy. And I really encourage those families to come individually to us, to our office, to the building principals where they may be having those concerns, because the best way to resolve an individual student issue is talk to the people who are directly responsible for those students. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bayer. Mrs. Moriarty is going to speak about the intervention block.
Thank you, Dr. Manning-Campbell. There was a question about intervention block and enrichment opportunities. So intervention blocks do happen throughout the course of the school day, where Tier 2 and Tier 3 services can be provided to students performing 1 or more grade levels below, either by the classroom teacher and or an intervention specialist, as well as the enrichment opportunities that happen throughout the day, but more often after school. We have the 21st Century program, we have Empire offerings, we have a robust extended school year program where we have Legos and BlackRock and many partnerships within the community. But for those specifics individually to buildings, it's best to contact the principal or the assistant principal of that building to find out the specific offerings within that particular building.
Thank you, Ms. Moriarty. Next, Ms. Kimberly Roaring, our Assistant Superintendent for Finance, and I will present the 2024-25 proposed budget.
Good evening. We are going to present the proposed budget this evening for fiscal year 25. Next slide, please. This evening we're going to share out what has happened with the enacted state budget, as well as review the tax levy that is proposed, the adjustments that meant for our revenue, review once again the set-asides we have in foundation aid, and ultimately what a contingent budget would also look like. Next slide, please.
Just want to remind everyone of my goals: literacy for all scholars, supports for our English language learners, as well as an emphasis on supporting our exceptional learners. We will continue to ensure that there's equity in our budget. So what we've done, what that means, I'll reiterate that we've met with building administrators as well as district directors for subject areas to ensure that we have appropriate staffing to run our programs with equity and fiscal excellence. We are ensuring that we are establishing student and staff ratios by looking at schedules, walking the buildings to ensure that we have appropriate numbers in our classrooms, and that we are maintaining academic success by way of looking at our staffing ratios.
Next slide, please. Thank you. So based on the board's input, we have a proposed tax levy increase of 3.8% or $4.2 million. As we shared previously, for a house assessed at about $300,000, that equates to approximately $168 per year increase, or roughly $14 a month. For a house assessed at $500,000, that increase is around $280 or $23 per month. Again, these are initial calculations that are estimates. We do not have the final assessed value yet, nor do we have the equalization rates, which we will receive later in this process before the board finalizes the tax levy. Next slide.
Just want to remind everyone that our expense drivers are all positions, our compensation is a heavy part of our budget, and we do understand that we need to have our dedicated professionals. Just thinking about your speech tonight, Mr. DeRay, we have great instructors in our district, and we need to ensure that we are compensating them appropriately. Our employee benefits also include our retirement plans, as well as our student transportation. All of our elementary and secondary students who are more than 0.5 miles from school, we are transporting them. Our out-of-district tuition, our foster exceptional learners, those are our biggest drivers of expense, and that is what we must do. We also have our debt services, which is our completed construction and working on the new projects that we have underway to ensure that our district is operating at excellence. That continues with tuition for BOCES, programs for our special education learners. We are not cutting programs that support our students. E&L services, English as a new language, ensuring testing. We're moving to computer-based testing, ensuring that we are providing success to our students to keep them within the 21st century with computer programming and things of that sort. Our insurance, including our liability, our property, student, accident, fraud, our legal fees, our custodial maintenance of our buildings, our transportation, contractual salary increases for all staff, health insurance, and our instructional materials. You heard some of my staff speak tonight about some of the items that we're doing to ensure that we are being responsible, that we are just not purchasing to purchase. And so some of the things that we've done some inventory to ensure that we are not just purchasing to purchase, making sure that we have appropriate materials, looking in the closets. I was a principal, so I know there are places that I would put certain things to ensure that I had additional items to support my students. So ensuring that we have what we need to provide for our students and provide in addition to. Looking at our audit services, our internal claims, our external, and our assessments.
Next slide, please. So the state adopted the budget. The education bill was adopted late Friday. We received the runs, and there were some adjustments that happened as a result of that. So when we met last time, we indicated what some of our priorities would be, and we talked about restoring the transportation back to 18 miles for non-public, increasing professional development around literacy specifically, looking at new literacy resources, and looking at our exceptional learners program. At the bottom here, you'll see the highlight that says we received a little over $1 million in additional foundation aid, and then a little over $6,000 in miscellaneous categorical aids. Next slide, please. So the revenue adjustments that we've made at this time is an increase in foundation aid of 3.49 based on the enacted budget. State categorical aid increases of approximately $8.5 million. We have proposed use of one-time funds, which is appropriated fund balance, and use of restricted reserves at a total of $11.37 million for next year. We have increased our estimated interest earnings by $2.1 million, and we've also increased our anticipated Medicaid reimbursement by $250,000. That's us taking a look later in the fiscal year at what we think we're going to land at and making those adjustments as we're moving through the process to finalize. Next slide, please. So we've been sharing with you the different categories of revenue. Just to clarify again that local revenue is more than the tax levy. It also includes our payment in lieu of taxes, our utility taxes, use fees, interest earnings. It's not just the tax levy. There's various sources of state revenue. It's not just foundation aid. We also receive different categorical aids that support our exceptional learners program, our transportation expense, our debt service through building aid, and instructional materials. Our federal revenue is primarily our Medicaid reimbursement, and then we have the use of appropriated one-time funds. Next slide. So we've updated this chart that we've been sharing with you throughout the budget development process. You will see at the bottom we are now at 3.5 in restricted reserves, and we are at 7.8 in appropriated fund balance, which is a very significant number of what that available balance is. So we'll be watching that closely as we go into next year. Next slide, please. This is looking at our proposed revenue in a pie chart. You can see that the vast majority of our revenue comes from state aid, which makes us very dependent on that foundation aid formula. The blue is our local revenue, and then you see the smaller slices. Orange is the use of appropriated one-time funds, and then there's a little sliver that's a gray color that is for federal. Next slide, please. This chart has been updated based on those revenue adjustments that were made last week, Friday night, after we got the state budget. So you'll see that there are a few changes in those categories. We did get that extra $1 million in foundation aid. Now at the bottom, we have a year-over-year increase of a total of $25 million. Next slide, please. These are the specific revenue changes that happened since the April 9th meeting. And I'm going to look at my cheat sheet because that's a little far away. So we said that we had the additional $1 million in foundation aid. We made an adjustment in our interest earning projection. That went up $500,000 from our last meeting. We had a small increase in private excess cost aid, our BOE special services aid, and then our instructional materials aid, which covered textbooks, software, hardware, and library. We did make an adjustment of $200,000 to our Medicaid reimbursement estimate, and then we did have that increased use of one-time funds. We are at 11.737, and we have an increase there since the last meeting of $455,000. So the total revenue adjustment since the last meeting is $2.2 million. Next slide, please. This is just, again, looking at those categories in a chart to highlight those differences and stipulate a little bit more clearly what the changes were. Next slide, please. These budget adjustments were the non-personnel adjustments that we shared with you at the last meeting. You'll notice as we go through the next couple of slides that there is a change in those adjustments as we no longer are reducing non-public transportation. This slide has been updated to reflect the positions that the superintendent has recommended to restore of the 2 music, 1 art, and also 1 director of elementary education. That adjustment has been made here, and this reflects the current estimate. There is an adjustment at the cabinet level as well. There are 2 retirements and 1 resignation at the end of this year as we go into 25, and the superintendent is proposing to go down by 1 position, reducing our cabinet from 10 to 9. Next slide, please. So with the enacted budget and the other revenue adjustments, this is how we've allocated those dollars. You see an increase in our tuition for exceptional learners. We've restored that transportation for non-public to 18 miles, so all those students who have been receiving that transportation will continue to do so. We've also added to our pre-K transportation budget as we've seen that go up significantly this year in cost, and we need to make sure we have the resources available for that next year as well. Here you'll see again the focus on literacy through professional development and different resources and supports, outlining those restored positions, and then various categorical changes.
Okay. Jim, could you go back 1 slide? I just want to add some information. So Ms. Roaring spoke to the reduction at the superintendent's level. So we went down from 10 positions to 9, and as we heard tonight, there was some confusion about the types of positions. So what we've done, we've created 2 associate superintendents that have greater responsibilities because we have reduced the cabinet and we have reduced some of our administrative functions. So district-wide, we've gone down approximately 5 administrative positions. So within that reduction, we have created 2 associate superintendent positions, still reducing the cabinet by 1 position. So we lost 3, 2 because of retirement and 1 resignation, and we've created 2 additional positions. So we are lower. We have less positions that we had. In total, we have 5 less administrative positions in our district.
Okay, next slide, please. Yep. So now we're going to talk about the proposed expense side of the budget, and here is a pie chart on that. You'll see the blue piece is our compensation for all of our staff. That includes our SEL supports, our security, custodial, maintenance, and faculty staff. Then on the orange, on the opposing side, you'll see that really reflects our other largest bucket, which is the employee benefits that we provide to our staff based on our contractual agreements. Next slide, please. When we break it out in the categories from a numerical perspective rather than the pie chart, you'll see again that the compensation and employee benefits are the most significant costs that the district has each year. Our next most significant costs are really out-of-district tuition and transportation for our students because of the decisions we've made to do it at a much lower distance. So we have debt service that's an obligatory expense that is both for construction that has been completed, that's bonds we're paying off, as well as bond anticipation notes or band short-term borrowing for the construction that's underway. And you saw the update just a little bit earlier on our capital construction project, so you know we're going to have a lot of construction happening during the 24-25 school year. Our total budget now is at $360.4 million. Next slide, please. This is one of the set-asides that we've been reviewing with you throughout the budget development process. At this time, we still believe that our contract for excellence set-aside is at $13.5 million. We are awaiting any update on that from State Ed. You'll receive a separate presentation on this later in the spring after we post our plan and have our public review comment. Next slide, please. So we're going to be maintaining a lot of the things that we've been doing, and that includes teachers for our English language learners, our middle school and high school restructuring. So we now have 4 career and technical education teachers at the middle school level for our students so they can start to get exposed to those opportunities. 10 secondary assistant principals and 8 guidance counselors. Next slide, please. We also are continuing to support 4 instructional technology facilitators to support instructional technology in our buildings, 7 positions that provide academic intervention services. We have social workers and library media specialists in there as well. And in the last bucket, we really take that and focus on our full-day pre-K program. So we are funding 5 pre-K teachers out of the general fund, as well as 22 pre-K teaching assistants, transportation expense for that program, and the pre-K supplies and materials that are needed. Next slide, please. Our other set aside is for community schools. This is only $837,000, and that funds these 8 positions. For 23-24, those parent coordinators were new positions, and we are looking to maintain those in 24-25 as well inside this set aside. Next slide, please. So our contingent budget means that we can have no increase in our tax levy, which means the district would have to cut $4.2 million of expense. And this slide here is showing you those things that we would be reducing based on the guidance of how a contingent budget is to be done. So one of the things in a contingent budget is that we cannot have in the 3-part calculation, the administrative percentage cannot exceed what it was in fiscal 24. So you'll see in there a line for general support reduction of $1.3 million. That is what we would have to cut out of that area of the budget to get back in compliance. It also calls for equipment to not be part of that budget. So you'll see there's several categories of equipment in here. You have maintenance and custodial as well as instructional technology. It would mean a loss of additional 5 teaching positions. It would reduce instructional software. It would have a reduction in our athletics funding. We would have a reduction in instructional classroom and supplies. We would also have a reduction in teacher additional time, as well as building-based clerical subs and administrative subs, for a total of $4.2 million. Next slide, please. Our next steps, we are going to submit all the required budget documents to SED, assuming the board adopts tonight within the timeline. We have a public hearing on March 14th, and the annual vote will be on May 21st.
Thank you. Any questions?
Ms. Politi.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I just want, because I have heard some misinformation within the community of the tax cap. Can you please clarify that the levy is not, explain that the levy is not a hard 2% tax cap and how that's calculated?
So there is a calculation that we've shared with the board throughout the process. Unfortunately, I do not have it in this presentation tonight, so we're going to talk a little bit more broadly about how that works. There is a growth limit of 2%, but there's also exclusions that are permitted. So when we start looking at the calculation of the tax cap, it includes exclusions for capital expenditures. So that is the variance between what our capital expenditures or debt service will be, and you saw our number here of around 12 million, as compared to what our building aid is going to be. And that difference is an exclusion that we get to add into that calculation. This year, we also had another exclusion that every district was eligible for because the ERS contribution rate went up more than 2%. So that was another small exclusion in the calculation that we were able to add in as we're completing it per the state comptroller's guidance. It really walks you right through all the steps. So when we got to the end, it was a $4.2 million increase for a simple majority, which was equal to 3.8% rather than the 2%. I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you. And I just want to stress to everyone that this budget was really well done. We could have been in a lot worse situation, so I thank you for all the hard work that you do. And, this was not an easy decision for any of us. I think that we really want to maintain a robust program for our district, and we also don't want to have anyone lose their livelihoods. And I think that we achieved all of those goals. And again, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would also like to agree with my colleague. Very robust budget, and I just have a few questions. Some of the items that we spoke about. So, first thing, can you speak to the literacy resources and supports to help students get on grade level? Understanding the importance of early literacy, understanding the importance of where the heavy lift is at, and if you can also speak to what we are doing at the lower grade levels, will it impact class size?
So I will speak a little, and if there are any members of the cabinet who wishes to add anything additional. So I want to speak to, there is a misconception that, we're reducing 16 teaching assistants. So what I will say is that we have shifted those teaching assistants to our mandated programs. Those teaching assistants, we did not have one teaching assistant per classroom. So those teaching assistants were shared. So if we want to improve literacy instruction and foundation, it is important that we embed in professional development and build in capacity and literacy of our current staff, including our existing teaching assistants, our teachers, as well as our administrators. Adding more doesn't necessarily equate to better, right? Because we have additional people in a classroom, yes, it's always helpful and beneficial. Listen, I was a building principal, and I always asked for more. Whether or not I needed it, I asked for more because I know that my scholars need additional support. However, in being fiscally responsible to this community, it is apparent that we need to do things a little bit differently. We do not have any research, and if it exists in a district, I would love for someone to share with me that having additional folks in the classroom who are trained in literacy instruction, that we have greater outcomes. I would like to see it. We've had these types of supports, and I want to take us back a little bit. When the one-time funds were allocated to districts, we elected to, because of our community need, based on what we had in terms of our students and our need, we elected to have positions with an understanding that these positions were not going to remain because we could not continue to float those positions in our budget. So what we've done strategically over the last 2 years, I've said it, I think, last time, this is not an overnight decision. We've been looking at this for the last 2 years. We've been strategic in how we are building our budget, building the classrooms, looking at staffing to ensure that we can support academic programs and academic excellence. So our goal is to build literacy through professional development and sustain it.
Can I dovetail on that?
Yes.
Okay, so
please.
That's an excellent answer, but can you speak to what that looks like to the teachers? What are we going to do to assist the teachers with that heavy lift differently? What are we going to do differently?
So differently, we will continue to have embedded instructional coaching. So we're looking at additional grants to support literacy in the classroom. We're looking at instructional coaching models to ensure that we have job-embedded professional development and not drive-by PD. What does that mean? When we have drive-by PD, we attend a workshop, we drive through, we see some folks one time for the year, twice for the year, we never return. In embedding an instructional coaching model, then we have job-embedded professional development, where we have a professional literacy specialist in our building who we can call upon to talk about and share research-based practices in the building, in the classroom. So that's one of the models that we're looking at, and we know research-based models that are successful in terms of literacy instruction. We provide the person to provide the PD in-house, in the classroom. This is my person for my building, and this is who I go to as the expert in the field.
Mr. Forget.
I don't want to harp on this, but I think it's really important because I think I heard a community member ask the question or make reference to it. Ms. Roaring, we are not going over the tax cap, correct?
That is correct. This is not exceeding the calculated tax cap.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mineo.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. To follow up on Mr. Howard's question, I like your idea about professional development. How's that going to be evaluated? How is the success of that going to be evaluated?
Well, we will be investing in pre and post models because we don't have any models of success by having additional folks in a room, right? So what we know is that we have to measure success based on the supports and the resources that we're providing. So this is very intentional and very strategic, looking at where we have the need, looking at pre-exams, mid, and also post in terms of how we are being intentional in providing training and support for our classroom teachers and teaching assistants, as well as our administrators.
And that will be reported out to the board as well as to the public.
We will certainly share all of our plans to address literacy once we have secured them. We are looking into securing additional funding, additional grants, and looking at opportunities for literacy trainings.
May I ask another question, Mr.
Sure.
President? Thank you very much for adding those additional music and art staff members. I think that's really important, and I'm glad you really looked critically at that and responded to the community as well as to some of the board members. Can you tell us about how music is going to work? How will that work for our students in order to give them the opportunities that the young people were speaking about?
So thank you. You're welcome, and thank you for your advocacy. We want to be intentional in supporting all of our scholars in every single aspect of their educational journey. We do not seek to take anything away. We made decisions based on programming, let me reiterate it again, with feedback from the administrators in charge, not only of building-based programs, but also district-based programs. With that being said, the intention is not to remove or reduce any programs. The intention is to provide additional opportunities, maybe during the school day, a different way to capture programs, a way to ensure that our programs are more robust, that we have additional students with the offerings, because we know that we can make our programs a little bit more robust. There is also an opportunity to offer additional programs, lessons in our after-school programs throughout our grant programs such as 21st Century and Empire, thank you, as well as through our Gear Up. So we're looking at different ways that we can offer opportunities in music and art to ensure that we do not destroy our wonderful and amazing music program. And I've seen several. And even though they tell me not to record, I do it so I can share how exceptional our students are. So I agree.
Can I ask another question? Thank you. I'm sorry. I still have a problem with the Chromebook line. It's 1.8 million plus. If we buy a computer for each student, that is $150 per student for each Chromebook. That's a lot. I think there's wiggle room in there that I really think we need to look at that a little bit more critically, and that would give you money to put back perhaps not all of the custodial staff that's gone, but one or two, so that you will be able to look at which schools really need that support and which don't. And I get the testing. We heard that from Ms. Peterson the last time. Thank you very much. But it's still a lot of money, and it was a very big jump from last year to this year.
I want to, yeah.
So we're going to probably tag team on this response. I think there's a couple of things we want to keep in mind. We were required to submit to SED our technology plan, and we had to submit in there our cycle of replacement. So that is something that we are maintaining through this allocation. I would also note that over the last few years, most of our technology has been purchased with one-time funds, and that's why it appears to be such a significant jump in 1 year, because now we have to bring that expense into the general fund.
Mr. Howard.
Thank you. I am so happy to hear what I think I heard, and so maybe you can reiterate it, but, so the incredible programs that I've been able to go and see recently, the New Windsor School Music Program, the Gardner Town, the all-district performances that I saw, because those programs will not be impacted. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This question is for Ms. Roaring. I believe I asked this question before, but if you can just go back over it again, because right now we're at the meat, and I need people to understand what's going on, because sometimes it's a little bit over my head. So can you speak to reserves, but also as you speak to them, can you tell me what are the best practices when using them, and are we using best practices in regards to the reserves?
So if you allow me just a minute, I want to first tag on to what Dr. Campbell said. I want to note that when we talk about music teachers, it's not including our theater and visual arts teachers. That's a separate position for us, and that's something that we haven't reduced at all. That wasn't even on the table in discussions. So I just want to make sure that that's really clear to everybody. In terms of use of fund balance and restricted reserves, this is a significant use. And I won't lie, it's a significant use in one time. But we also have to look at how we continue to do our due diligence as we phase in that correction to put ourselves in a sustainable state. We have not been in a sustainable state. I've shared with the board last year and this year during budget development that we have a structural deficit in our budget. We have expense obligations that exceed the revenue that we can obtain. So we have to continue to look at and evaluate our funds, our programs, and make sure we're doing what's right for our kids and giving them the best that we can do with the funds that we have. So I would say that it is a significant jump compared to last year. It's almost 3 times what we used in the fiscal 24 budget. It will make a significant dent in those balances. If you look at the reserve chart in the presentation, you'll see that. And that definitely impacts what we have available to us over the next couple of years as we continue to taper back.
Thank you.
Ms. Mineo.
We have a very, very successful high school program at West Street. As I'm understanding, the principals were asked to come in and speak about their staffing needs. I also understand that there may be a reduction in staff at West Street. I'm very concerned about this. Can you address that, please, for me?
Absolutely. So I'll reiterate that. I think I said it today and maybe at the last time. We have walked classrooms. We understand that there's a component in the big picture learning grant, and we are honoring our commitment to the grants, and we are honoring our commitment to the program. So are there areas where we have to reduce staff? 100%. And we know that because we've taken a real close look at how we are operating our district. We want to make sure that we are offering some equity. We want to ensure that we're supporting our very successful program at West, and we understand the importance of that program, so we are not taking the integrity away from that program at West. Please know that we looked at everything, and we continue to look and monitor repeatedly.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I looked over what was in last year's budget and next year's budget, and these are the top 5 dollar increases that we have, these items and the amount. So it's health insurance increased $11.8 million. BOCE's special ed costs increased $2.8 million. Transportation increased 1.9. Teacher subs increased 1.8. And equipment technical increased 1.8. So it's a total of $20 million by these 5 different accounts. Is there any way that these accounts going forward can be looked at, or some way to reduce these? These are the biggest drivers of the increase in our budget, and I'm assuming that will probably be year after year. That
That will certainly be year after year. One of the things that we're looking at is equipping our staff or attracting staff, bringing back some of our students into the district to ensure that we can provide programming, but we have to ensure that our staff is trained and we can support our students who are out of district, because that will have a bit of a reduction in terms of our monies. We're also looking at our transportation, but what we don't want to do is have a quick response. We want to be able to plan for how we reduce fiscally to ensure that we are not harming our community. We want to make sure that we have our true partnership and that there is collaboration and coordination and an understanding of why we have to do things a little bit differently. I think Mr. DeRay said it best, right? Things go up every single year. Costs go up, just the nature of the beast. And so we have a really big budget that we have to manage, and so we are looking at ways that we can reduce efficiently and effectively, but not interrupting the sanctity of our district.
Thank you.
Ms. Roaring wants to respond.
I just want to add a couple quick things there. You have a huge, notable increase this year in the instructional technology equipment because, again, we brought that into the general fund. We would not anticipate that sort of increase year over year as we go forward because now it'll be built into the base budget. We are seeing premium increases in our health insurance of 15 to more than 20%. So we are certainly looking at how we can work with our TPA to find some cost containment options while we still meet the obligations and commitments that we've made to our retirees and our active employees. But that is going to continue to be one of the biggest challenges we face in terms of cost growth.
Thank you.
Mr. Bergarelli. Thank you, Mr. President. Will we still have teaching assistants in kindergartens? Is there a reduction there?
We will have our teaching assistants in kindergarten. No reduction there.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Anyone else? We're set. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for your comments. We appreciate it, and questions. Thank you. Sorry. Finally, items 6.4 and 6.5 are presented as consent items for your consideration tonight.
Point of order, you got 6.4 through 6.7 on consent, ma'am.
Sorry, I could not see. Sorry. Item 6.4, 6.5, and 6.6. Thank you. And 6.7. Thank you.
Would anyone like to separate out any of these items? Mr. Levinstein?
I think we should vote on all of these separately.
All of them separately?
Oh, yes, please. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Then we need a motion and a second on 6.4. Second? Any discussion on 6.4? Mr. Levinstein?
I don't need discussion. I just wanted to explain to the public that this is an unused emergency day that is being put on Friday of the Memorial Day weekend to have an extra long holiday.
Yeah, Mr. Levinstein, I believe under where it says public comment, we stated that May 24th, 2024, the district will be closed due one unused emergency day, and the public can see that.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Call the vote.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré? Yes. Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Moving on to 6.5, can I get a motion and a second to entertain this resolution?
So moved.
Any discussion? Mr. Levinstein.
So the comment I would make is it is not everything that I wish for in this budget, and but there's too many consequences to vote no on something like this. So that's the only point I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this item? Please call the roll.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré? Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to 6.6, could I get a motion and a second to entertain this resolution? Any discussion on this item? None? Call a vote.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to 6.7, could I get a motion and a second to entertain the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Questions, discussion? None? Please call.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey? Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to section 7, clerk of the board.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 7.1 and 7.2 on consent.
Would anybody like to separate out either item? Could I get a motion and a second for both items?
So moved.
Any discussion on either item? I don't see. Call vote.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard?
Yes.
Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
If you're interested in running for the board, there's still time. The packets are available at the clerk's office. The petitions are due back on the clerk by May 1st at 5 o'clock. There's currently 6 vacancies on the board that will be up on the election. That concludes my items, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. McCoy. Moving on to section 8, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources. Good evening, Mr. McLemore.
Thank you, Mr. President. On the Human Resources agenda, I have items 8.1 through 8.19 for your consideration.
Thank you. Would anybody like to separate out any of these items? Ms. Mineo.
I'd like to separate out 8.3 and 8.4.
8.3 and 8.4. Okay, can I get a motion and a second on 8.1 through 8.19 minus 8.4 and 8.3?
So moved.
Any discussion on any of these items? Mr. Levinstein.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, again, the Personnel Committee did not meet to vet the resolutions being brought forward tonight on the Human Resources agenda. So for clarity for myself and others, I would like to ask administration if I have a correct interpretation of the resolutions coming up for a vote. Regular appointments, leaves of absences, resignations, and rescissions. A negotiated supplemental memorandum of agreement with the NTA for an employee's time with the district to include both CSEA and NTA service. Create the following positions: Associate Superintendent of Administration and an Associate Superintendent of Curriculum, which is part of Central Office reorg plan, eliminating 3 other Central Office positions. Gear Up Event Facilitator, funded by the Gear Up grant. Approve appointments or additional appointments from multiple funding sources for the following: Elementary After-School Program, Curriculum Writing, Professional Development. Rescind and add to Friday Night Lights After-School Program. Rescind and add to School Leadership Teams. Rescind and appoint Evening School Stipended Principal position. An Assistant Principal appointment. Appoint a Stipended Deputy Treasurer position. Book inventory appointments. rescind a Gear Up appointment, rescind and approve, reduce probation time for an employee in a certain tenure area, abolish 2 part-time food service clerks and create 1 full-time food service clerk, increase funding for workplace investigations, and tenure recommendations. Mr. McLemore, does this describe accurately the resolutions you are presenting?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions on 8.1 to 8.19 minus 8.3 and 8.4? Okay, let's vote.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Okay, we are left with 8.3 and 8.4. Would anybody like to separate out either one? Any discussion on these items?
You would vote on them separately, sir.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Any discussion on 8.3?
Point of order, you need a motion and a second first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Any discussion on 8.3? Mr. Howard.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, can we speak to Associate Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction? We've been used to having an Assistant Superintendent, elementary, secondary. Can you speak to how this one person can do both jobs and what the responsibilities of this associate person will be as opposed to the 2 individual assistant superintendents?
So I'll speak a little bit, and I think I'll ask Mr. Forget if there's anything that's helpful to the community to just add. So I will say that we are a large district, and so we have traditionally had 2 assistant superintendents for instruction. What we've noticed is that we have 2 assistant superintendents, one focused on elementary and one focused on secondary. And what we've discovered is that we need to have a true alignment. We need to have the K-12 perspective and a continuous lens. And so it's integral to the organization to have someone who can look and align P-12 to ensure that there's consistency, that we follow that graduate profile from a pre-kindergarten stage. I don't want to misrepresent what we've done in the past. What we've done is really looked at a more fiscally responsible way to run our district. We understand that we need to make some changes and some edits. And so in doing so, we've done a confidential search to ensure that we have individuals with experience in that level of central office or building leadership. We're looking for one individual who's able to bring those pieces together. So the intention is to ensure that there's alignment vertically and horizontally to ensure that we are following the students and providing professional development opportunities in a P-12 model.
Yeah, so just to add 2 more things. The associate superintendent will be absolutely designing curriculum, researching instructional strategies to address our unique needs in this district based on our student population, and working with teachers and other administrators to design assessments to inform the progress of the students and the reteaching in the classrooms. So it'll be a traditional curriculum instruction assessment design model. So the work that's done with the building principals, elementary schools, and K-8 schools will be assigned to me. I will be working with the principals to run their buildings, to address the day-to-day operations in those schools, to make sure that the arrival and dismissal is working, and any additional supports that they need to be able to run a safe and efficient learning environment would fall on my shoulders. And there's another individual within the district that would take on the middle school, 2 middle schools and the high school. So it's parsing out those school leadership support roles and allowing the curriculum instruction assessment to laser-like focus, get in there and make sure what we're teaching the students is what they need to know in order to be successful upon completion at the 12th grade level.
Oh, okay, so if I'm hearing correctly, so we're reimagining that department. And what does that look like as far as support? Like, we have, what does that curriculum, C&I department, what is that going to look like? One person? Because if I'm hearing correctly, some of that workload is going to be passed on to the deputy. So what is that department going to look like?
So that's a very fair question. So traditionally, how our assistant superintendents function now, they are not only an arm of my cabinet, but they also provide technical support to the buildings and to parents, to families, to members of the community. In reimagining curriculum and instruction, that associate superintendent focuses strictly on instructional practices and approaches, looks at our data, designs our professional development, assigns our instructional focus based on what we see in the data, moves our data-driven instructional approaches, and that person is keenly aware of what's happening with teaching and learning. The technical side of it, in terms of all of our safety, all of our emergencies, the phone calls that principals make to us, hey, I have a decision to make and we may need some additional support. What do you think about this scenario? What have we done? Just giving them that technical support in terms of building management will fall within the associate superintendent, which is the next position we'll discuss, and Ed's role as the deputy. We have been spending more and more time in classrooms looking at instruction, and so we know that we need to have a specific focus on instruction if we intend to do what's right and what's better, just based on a number of items that's been thrown our way. We can think that the pandemic has left. We are still feeling the remnants of the pandemic with our scholars because we know that that 1 year away from contact time will continue to impact their educational life. And so we're looking at different ways to look at instructional approaches, and the traditional assistant superintendent role will be less managerial and more instructional.
So to be perfectly honest with you, Dr. Campbell, my concern, because I know the work that Andrea has done and Dr. Farrow, and they're all over the place. They had so much responsibility. And to think that this is going to be done by one person now, but you've explained it to me that the deputy's going to take some of that, that'll alleviate some of my concerns because I know what they did. I know the work, and I know the fires they were putting out. So it makes me understand a little better when you say the deputy's going to be absorbed in some of that, and that department's going to look a little different.
And I just want to add, there was a lot of commentary about central office. We have a district of approximately 12,000 scholars. By no means are the fires only put out by the assistant superintendents of C&I. Yes, I want to make it clear for the members of the community, because I want to ensure that this is a team approach, and so every single incident, usually we all touch, right? So if there is an incident at an elementary level, initially it may, they may reach out to Ms. Moriarty, but that may touch Mr. Bayer. We all get, we all touch that, the Human Resources Department. So this is a team, we work collectively and cohesively, but by no means is it only, like a one hand on deck. We're all hands-on, and although there's this mantra that central office, has all of these administrators, I want everyone to bear in mind that we have approximately 12,000 scholars that we're responsible for.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Forget?
Yeah, just one last comment on this. The other component that we didn't really discuss this evening is the the Assistant Superintendent for Innovation and Equity. We have an Assistant Superintendent that is responsible for ensuring that all students are provided with instruction that matches their needs. So in Dr. Freeman Mack's role, she's going to be working in tandem with curriculum because it happens in the classroom. Equity doesn't happen in a separate place in a room away from everyone. It happens embedded in a school, embedded in a classroom, teachers and students. And that's a shift that we're making intentionally. Dr. Manning Campbell required us to say, it's great that we do all these events, it's great that we host all these opportunities extended day, but what are we doing in the classroom with those students? And that's where Dr. Freeman Mack's going to show her magic when she comes into curriculum and instruction.
Okay, that explains a little better to me. Thank you.
We're still on 8.3. Any further discussion? I think we're good.
Mr. Levinstein,
Yes.
Ms. Mineo,
No.
Ms. Politi,
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli,
Yes.
Mr. Doré, Mr. Harvey,
Yes.
Mr. Howard.
Yes.
Thank you. Could I get a motion and a second? We're on 8.4 to entertain 8.4.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this item? Okay, I think we're good.
Ms. Mineo, Ms. Politi,
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli,
Yes.
Mr. Doré,
Yes.
Mr. Harvey,
Yes.
Mr. Howard, Mr. Levinstein.
Yes.
That concludes my items, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving, item 9, Assistant Superintendent of Finance. I'm sorry.
Since we are in the Human Resources section, I want to take this opportunity to recognize a member of my team who will be retiring August 4th. So, Ms. Sarah Van, I want to publicly thank you for your dedication, your commitment, and your support to our wonderful district. We will miss you. Please know that if you need anything, feel free to reach out, because I intend to do the same. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
All right, item 9, Assistant Superintendent of Finance. Good evening, Ms. Roaring.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Division has items 9.1 to 9.16 for routine consent this evening.
Thank you. Would anybody like to separate out any items 9.1 to 9.16? Okay. Can we get a motion and a second to
So
vote on
moved.
9.1 to 9.16?
So moved.
Any discussion? No. Mr. Levinstein.
So, Ms. Roaring, I would like to ask for a brief explanation of a couple of resolutions, and I read the public content, so I know it, but I think it's something the community should be aware of. One is the 9.4 donations, and the other is 9.7 for the planetarium.
I'm going to defer to my colleague, Mrs. Lakai, to talk to you about the donations.
Thank you, Mrs. Roaring. We had two donations. One was from Orange County Emergency Management. They donated to our CT building 2 drive-in simulation at the approximate value of $28,000. They are to be used to research vehicle design, human factor studies, such as driver's behavior under the influence of drugs, alcohol, and severe weather conditions. So we really appreciate that. The second donation was from Community Foundation, and that was $2,000, and this is for free from Newburgh Free Academy main campus to support ongoing expense of the new food pantry and co-op. So we really appreciate these donations that really can make a difference in enrichment of our students and their opportunities.
Thank you very much, and that's the reason I'm asking that this be made public, those things. Thank you. And the
Item
planetarium?
9.7. So this has been a mission of Dr. Campbell since she came to get our planetarium back up and operational, and she charged Dr. Farrell with getting that done. So in her absence, Mr. Rothman assisted us in getting the information that we needed to do this RFP and get the quotes to do the upgrades that are necessary to put it back into operation. Additionally, in the budget, we have put funding in so that we can do some curriculum around this and do community events as well with the planetarium, so it would be something that would benefit our community.
Great, thank you.
Any further discussion on 9.1 to 9.16? Time to vote.
Ms. Politi,
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré? Yes. Mr. Harvey? Yes. Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my items.
Good evening. I have items 10.1 and 10.2 on consent agenda for this evening.
Would anybody like to separate out 10-1 or 10-2? Can I get a motion and a second to entertain 10-1 and 10-2?
So moved.
Any discussion? We're good?
Mr. Bergarelli? Yes. Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Howard? Yes. Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes. Thank you. That concludes my items.
Moving to item 11, Dr. Mack. Good evening.
Good evening, President, Board President, Mr. Doré. I'm sorry, I'm tired. I apologize. I have items 11.1 and 11.2 for your consideration this evening.
Would anybody like to separate out an item? No. Can I get a motion and a second then?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on these items? I think we're good.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey? Yes. Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein?
Yes.
Ms. Mineo? Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Section
sir.
12, Assistant Superintendent of Exceptional Learners, Mr. Baer. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Exceptional Learner Division has one item, 12.1, for the board's consideration.
Can I get a motion and a second for 12.1? Any discussion on this item? We're good.
Mr. Harvey? Yes. Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Thank you. That concludes my items.
Thank you. We will not be moving into executive session again. Can I get a motion and a second to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Mr. Howard? Mr. Levinstein? Ms. Mineo?
Yes.
Ms. Politi?
Yes.
Mr. Bergarelli?
Yes.
Mr. Doré?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey? Yes.